Imagine moving to a foreign country where you don't speak the language, you don't have any friends, and the only person you trust is constantly working. Now, imagine looking out your window and seeing a silhouette. A man, standing perfectly still, watching you. You look away, you look back, and he hasn't moved. This isn't just a bad dream. For Julia, it's a living nightmare. Today, we are recapping the chilling 2022 thriller, Watcher. The story begins with Julia, an American actress who has just moved to Bucharest, Romania, with her husband, Francis. Francis has a high-pressure job, leaving Julia alone in their massive, sparsely furnished apartment. The apartment features floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a beautiful view of the city, but also leave Julia completely exposed. While Francis is at work, Julia tries to explore the city, but the language barrier makes her feel like a ghost in her own life. One night, while looking out the window, she notices a figure in the building directly across the street. He is a shadow, a shape, but she can feel his eyes on her. She tells Francis, but he laughs it off, calling it city living. This is our first red flag. Francis isn't just a busy husband, he's the start of the gaslighting that will define Julia's journey. To make matters worse, the local news is dominated by reports of a serial killer nicknamed the Spider. This killer is targeting young women and, in a gruesome twist, decapitating them. Julia's anxiety skyrockets. Is the man in the window just a lonely neighbor, or is he the Spider? Julia goes to the grocery store, and for the first time she feels she's being followed. Every time she turns a corner, she sees a man in a beige coat. She ducks into a movie theater to escape him. In a heart-pounding sequence, she sits in the dark, empty theater, only for a man to sit directly behind her. Not 3 rows back, not across the aisle, right behind her. She can hear his heavy breathing. She flees the theater, but the man follows her into a strip club where she tries to hide. By the time she gets home, she's hysterical, but because she didn't see the man's face clearly, the police tell her there's nothing they can do. Julia decides to take matters into her own hands. She begins watching the Watcher. She uses her camera to zoom in on the window across the street. She sees him sitting in a rocking chair, staring. She eventually spots the man leaving his building. She follows him. This is a brilliant role reversal. The watched becomes the watcher. She follows him to a local mall, watching him buy a single cleaning product. It seems mundane, but in a thriller, cleaning supplies usually mean getting ready for a crime scene. She gets close enough to see his face. He is an older, unremarkable man named Daniel Weber. He looks like a nobody, which makes him even terrifying. The tension reaches a breaking point when Julia convinces Francis to call the police. They go over to the neighbor's apartment. The man, Daniel, acts completely confused. He tells the police that he's just a lonely man who works at a warehouse and that Julia is the one stalking him. He points out that she followed him to the mall and the theater. The police and even Francis start to believe Daniel. They look at Julia like she's the crazy American wife who has too much time on her hands. This is the low point for Julia. The person she loves is now siding with the man she fears. To clear the air, Francis even invites Daniel to the police station for a civil conversation. Julia befriends her neighbor Irina, a vibrant woman who lives in the apartment next door. Irina is the only person who doesn't treat Julia like she's insane. Irina even shows Julia a pistol she keeps for protection. But one night, she hears a struggle in Irina's apartment. She hears a thud. She calls Francis, she calls the police, but when they enter Irina's place, everything looks normal. Irina's boyfriend says she just left for work, but Julia knows. She can feel the silence in the walls. She is surrounded by people, but she is completely alone in her truth. Julia goes to a museum to clear her head, but she sees Daniel there too. He isn't even hiding it anymore. He waves at her. It's a taunt. She confronts him in public, screaming to leave her alone. To the outsiders in the museum, Julia looks like a woman having a mental breakdown. Daniel just stands there, looking pathetic and victimized. Francis arrives and is embarrassed by Julia's behavior. He tells her she needs professional help. That night, they go to a work party for Francis. Julia has to sit through dinner with Francis's colleagues who make jokes about her imaginary stalker in Romanian, thinking she can't understand. But Julia is learning. She understands enough to know they are mocking her. She leaves the party in a daze, taking the subway home alone. The subway ride is a masterclass in tension. The train is nearly empty. Daniel Weber gets on. He sits across from her. He doesn't say a word. He just watches. Julia gets off her stop and runs. She reaches her apartment, locks the door, and finally feels safe. But then, she hears a sound. A rhythmic, wet sound coming from the bathroom. She walks in and finds a plastic bag. Inside the bag is a heavy round object. She opens it, and the screen reveals the decapitated head of her friend Irina. The spider isn't some mystery man, it was Daniel all along, and he's been inside her apartment this entire time. Daniel emerges from the shadows. He tells Julia that he liked watching her because she was the only one who truly saw him. He moves with a terrifying, slow precision. He overpowers Julia and begins to cut her throat. He wants her to be his next trophy. He leaves her to dead on the floor, bleeding out, and goes to the living room to wait for Francis. He wants to finish the job. Francis arrives home calling out for Julia. He sees Daniel sitting in the chair, and before Francis can react, Daniel prepares to strike. But then, a gunshot rings out. In one of the most satisfying endings in recent horror history, we see Julia standing in the doorway. She is covered in blood, holding Irina's pistol. She didn't die. She didn't wait for a man to save her. She fires again and again, putting several bullets into Daniel Weber. The final shot of the film is Julia standing over the body of the man who haunted her, as her husband Francis looks on in absolute shock and shame. He finally sees the truth, but it's too late. Julia walks away, the only survivor of the spider's web. The Watcher is dead, and Julia is finally the one in control. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next recap.